You are currently breathing a lie. You think the 21% oxygen in our atmosphere is a constant, a safety net provided by a benevolent nature? But history tells a different story. A story written in the crushed vertebrae of titans that once walked where you stand. 66 million years ago, the sky didn't belong to the sparrow. It belonged to gods with wingspans the size of fighter jets. The only reason the Jurassic era existed, the only reason a creature like the Brachiosaurus could exist was because the Earth's oxygen levels were a high-octane furnace. During the reign of the dinosaurs, oxygen levels reached as high as 30%. This wasn't just a gas. It was the biological fuel of the impossible. Oxygen is the energy currency of life. In the prehistoric world, the air was so thick with life-giving fire that biology could break every rule in the book. It allowed a heart to pump blood up a 40-foot neck against the crushing force of gravity. It allowed lungs to power entities of a scale that shouldn't exist. Nature didn't create the T-Rex by accident. It grew it because the air was a superfuel. Without that saturated oxygen, dinosaurs would have been nothing more than garden lizards, struggling to lift their own heads. Humanity, however, was born in a low-power world. We are small, fragile, and slow because our air is poor. We are the scavengers of a loxygen world, living on the leftovers of a much greater time. But what if the planet decided to turn the dial back up? What if the fuel returned tomorrow? If that number rose by just 1% from 21 to 22, the world wouldn't become a paradise. It would become a biological explosion. The Jurassic era wouldn't be a memory. It would be your new reality. Welcome to the Great Oxidation, a world where your house is no longer a shelter. It is a pantry, and you are the protein. Meet Tom. He is 30 years old, an athlete, and currently enjoying his morning coffee on a quiet patio. He wakes up in a world with 22% oxygen. At first, Tom feels like a god. The extra 1% oxygen saturates his red blood cells instantly. Every breath feels like drinking pure liquid energy. His brain receives a natural dopamine boost. His cognitive functions sharpen. His reaction times decrease. Tom feels like he could run a marathon without breaking a sweat. His muscle recovery is instantaneous. His vision is sharper. The colors of the trees look more vivid, more saturated. He is experiencing hyperoxic euphoria, but Tom is oblivious to the cost. While he feels like a superhero, his lungs are already suffering from microburns. Oxygen is a corrosive element. It begins to cook the soft tissues of the human body from the inside out. And Tom isn't the only one getting a boost. Every living thing is reacting to the nitrofuel in the air. Insects don't have lungs. They breathe through tiny holes in their sides called spiracles. Their size has been physically limited for 60 million years by the thinness of our air. At 22%, that barrier is deleted. The great growth has begun. As Tom watches a bee land on a flower near his table, he notices something wrong. The bee is not the size of a fingernail. It is growing before his eyes. With every breath of 22% oxygen, the bee's metabolism is shifting into a high-performance gear. To support this massive surge of energy, the bee needs more than just nectar. It needs protein, massive amounts of it. The honeybee, once the symbol of industrial peace, is transforming into nature's airborne artillery. Within hours, the bee has reached the size of a sparrow. Its exoskeleton is thickening into a suit of golden armor. Its stinger is no longer a microscopic needle. It has become a 4-inch biological bayonet. A bayonet reinforced with chitin that can pierce through a leather jacket, a denim pair of jeans, or a human skull. The hum Tom hears is no longer a peaceful buzz. It is a low-frequency roar, like a squadron of drones hovering over his house. The bees are no longer gathering honey for a hive. They're hunting to feed a queen that is now the size of a grizzly bear. A queen that requires 5,000 pounds of meat every day to sustain her accelerated egg-laying process. Tom watches as a neighbor's dog is targeted. There is no struggle. There is only a golden blur and a sudden silence. The bees don't just sting. They use their mass and their heat to cook their prey in a process called balling. Except now, they are balling humans. But the biological horror is only half the story. Oxygen is the ultimate oxidizer. Moving to 22% changes the very chemistry of our planet's survival. Forest fire probability increases by over 70% with just a 1% rise in oxygen. At this level, Even wet, green vegetation can burn with the intensity of dry tinder. A single spark from a short-circuiting toaster in Tom's kitchen doesn't just start a fire, it starts a bomb. Lightning strikes become catastrophic events. Single bolt can turn an entire mountain range into a wall of flame that cannot be extinguished. The world is becoming a tinderbox. The very air is ready to ignite. Tom sees the horizon glowing orange. The forests of the world are becoming giant candles. The skyscrapers of our cities are becoming chimneys. The steel is softening under the intense heat. The world is literally on fire with life and fire. Tom runs back inside his house, desperate to find a way to escape the golden swarm. He enters his living room and stops. The silence is heavy. The air is smelling of ozone. He looks at the corner of the room where a small, dusty web used to be. The spider is gone, but the web is still there. Only now, the strands are as thick as nylon fishing line. They are coated in a digestive enzyme so powerful it is currently melting the wood of his baseboards. He hears a clicking sound, systematic, rhythmic. It's coming from behind the sofa. A common house spider, the one Tom ignored for 3 years, emerges into the light. It is 6 feet wide. Its legs are covered in sensory hairs that can detect the moisture of Tom's breath from 20 feet away. It doesn't move like an animal. It moves like a glitch in reality, teleporting across the floor in bursts of terrifying speed. This is the return of the Landlord, the creature that lived in the shadows while the air was thin. It has regained its ancestral form. It has regained the power it held when the Brachiosaurus walked the earth. Tom realizes that he is no longer the owner of this house. He is a food unit that has been conveniently trapped in a box. But why can't Tom call for help? Why hasn't the military arrived? Because the 1% increase has murdered the internet. Insects like termites, crickets, and beetles have grown to the size of rats. And their new high-oxygen metabolisms require them to eat constantly. They have found a new food source, the polymer insulation of our fiber optic cables and power lines. Across the globe, the nervous system of the human race is being chewed to pieces. The power grid is failing because giant crickets are causing massive short circuits and transformers. Our drones are being knocked out of the sky by dragonflies that see them as territorial rivals. Planes cannot fly because a mid-air collision with a 10-pound locust is enough to shear a wing off. Humanity is being plunged into a pre-industrial darkness while the monsters are evolving in real time. Tom is huddling in his basement, but he feels his body failing. This is the scientific tragedy of the 1%. It is called Kleiber's Law. Metabolic rate is tied to size and energy availability. The insects are growing into gods because their systems are simple and efficient. But the human body is too complex. Tom's heart is beating at 200 beats per minute. His cells are dividing so fast that his DNA is fraying. He is aging years in a single day. The extra oxygen is a poison for a species designed for 21%. Tom is experiencing the burnout. He is becoming too alive for his own skin. The human race isn't just being hunted. It is being phased out by the very atmosphere it needs. We are the gods of the thin air. At 22%, we are just a failed experiment in a world of titans. Outside, the world has become a masterpiece of biological ambition. The trees are growing inches every hour, their leaves becoming thick and waxy to handle the oxygen load. The dragonflies, now with 3-foot wingspans, are dogfighting with the last of the birds. The planet has hit the reset button. Nature decided that the human experiment was too quiet, too slow, too fragile. Traded our skyscrapers for hives. Traded our satellites for pheromone trails. Traded our history for a hunger that never ends. The 1% increase wasn't an accident. It was a correction. We are a fluke of chemistry. We exist because the trees aren't working hard enough today. If they decide to produce just a little more life, we are simply deleted. Look at the spider in your bathroom tonight. Look at the fly on your window. Don't look at them with disgust. Look at them with respect. They are the kings in exile. They're the giants of the past, trapped in small bodies, waiting for their fuel. They have more in common with the T-Rex than you have with your own ancestors. They are the patient owners of the planet, and they have a very long memory. Tonight, as you go to sleep, remember one thing. The air you breathe is the only thing keeping you human. It is the thin, invisible line between a peaceful suburban night and a Jurassic nightmare. but the wind is picking up. The forests are breathing deeper, so the oceans are producing more plankton, the levels are rising, and the 1% is coming. The sun is setting on the age of man. In the dark, the sound of 1,000 giant wings is getting louder. The prehistoric sky isn't a memory, it's a forecast. Because nature doesn't have a memory, it only has a cycle. Your time on the top is officially over. The kings are dead. Long live the kings. The air is hungry, and it is finally time to eat.